discipline by my government. It is imperative to note that development is always underpinned by strong spiritual and moral values. Thus, in order for us to achieve the objectives tied to sustainable development, we must stick to our spiritual norms and values and be guided by them in our day-to-day lives. For Muslims, these precious values are derived from the teachings of the Holy Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And these noble values are also universal in that they enjoin humanity to cohabit harmoniously as civilized social beings. These teachings, as contained in the Holy Quran, cannot be amended to please anybody, more so the infidels. The values that underpin our way of life as Muslims are very straightforward and non-contradictory. Therefore, we should all stick to them without compromise, regardless of where we are and irrespective of our social status. We ought to remember that life is just transitional and not eternal. Therefore, we will all return to face divine judgment someday. As we celebrate Eid al-Adha, commitment and sincerity are prerequisites for worship, and it is a sine qua non for acceptance of good deeds that Muslims refrain from indulgence in ungodly behavior both during the feast days and beyond. Let us celebrate as prescribed in Islam by shunning and avoiding everything offensive in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us live by the divine laws and train our children to be God-fearing. Let our homes and neighborhoods serve neither as grounds for crime nor for harboring criminals. All the great religions in the world put peace with oneself, with one's neighbors, and with God before any other doctrine, as it is only through peace that humankind can survive, worship Allah, and develop. Fellow Gambians, friends of the Gambia, distinguished viewers, as I observed earlier, Islam is a divine and noble religion that requires us to be humble, tolerant, and righteous at all times, and to submit ourselves to the will of the Almighty Allah. Unfortunately, adherence to these noble principles is much easier proclaimed than put into practice. Hence, it is very disheartening today to see some Muslims, though a small percentage, frequently engage in abominable atrocities such as killing and maiming fellow human beings, which is often fueled by satanic elements but disguised as Muslims. In the light of this, and as Gambians, let us cherish and work towards maintaining the peace and stability that our great country is renowned for. In the same way, we must seek to establish peace globally to end the suffering of people, especially women, children, and the elderly in conflict-ridden areas of the world. Without global peace and unity, humanity will continue to witness such heinous crimes and outrage that we witness today. As we continue to pray for peace and love in the Gambia, let me reiterate the fact that my government will never tolerate crime, violence, and the undermining of national security. Like the enemies of Islam, the enemies of this nation would never succeed in their machinations. I am confident that Allah will continue to defend all genuine Muslim nations as He continues to protect the Islamic Ummah. The sole guarantor for this is that we have to commit ourselves to living decent and noble lives while submitting to the will of Allah, the Almighty. Fellow Gambians, friends of the Gambia, distinguished viewers, our thoughts and prayers are with all the victims of violence, especially Muslims that are being slaughtered on a daily basis by the so-called Islamists, Democrats, and infidels. The innocent people of Syria, Palestine, and other troubled spots come to mind. May Allah help them all to vanquish their satanic enemies. Fellow Gambians, friends of the Gambia, distinguished viewers, as this year's Hajj has reached its climax, I entreat you to pray for the pilgrims that the Almighty Allah accepts their Hajj rites and return home in peace and spiritually uplifted. For the departed souls of our loved ones and relatives, I pray that Allah, in His infinite mercy, forgives and admit them to eternal bliss in Al-Jannah. I also pray that Allah, the Almighty, accepts our sacrifices and continues to bless, protect, and guide our great country while lifting us higher each year within the community of nations and within the Islamic Ummah. For the sick and those in distress, may Allah the Almighty deliver them in peace. As it is a moment of prayer and devotion, let us pray profusely. Let us pray to live long and healthy lives, to celebrate the day in grand fashion for many, many years to come. Finally, may the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to shower His infinite blessings, protection, and guidance on our great country, our two friends, and all of us good citizens of this country. Eid Mubarak to all of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dewenati. Yalan feke dewen. Alamanto be mawela jaritat. Emite kato mata eti bulai disa jufwe. Ajarama. Eid Mubarak.
Bismillah Rahman Rahim. His Excellency Bangkok President Sheikh Professor Dr. Alhaji Jammeh, sa wasan jimu adalati nimbanna